Hello and welcome to this quick and rough guide to getting set up with a folder structure inside VS Code. Now you notice I'm calling it VS Code, not Visual Studio Code. Let's just open the application here. There you go, you see Visual Studio Code. I'm calling it VS Code because it makes it clear that this isn't any of the other very similarly named products under the Visual Studio umbrella available from Microsoft. It's important you use this one, Visual Studio Code. So we've got an interface up. It looks nice. This is in dark mode. Yours may not look exactly like this. I like a dark mode in my coding environment because it makes me feel like a real hacker. Terribly exciting. And it's a lot easier on the eyes as well. Yours may have a different appearance. As long as it says Visual Studio Code here, you should be good to go. Let's get it set up then first with making a folder for a website to live inside of. Now this I'm going to call a web folder, and it's going to have to contain all of the elements your website needs to display within a browser, all of the assets and ingredients that it relies on. Now I don't have a folder already set up, so I'm going to make one now on my device, and I don't even need to go to my device to do this. I can just skip that stage and choose this here where it says open folder. So I'm going to click on that now, and the Microsoft File Explorer for Windows opens up. It's not currently where I want it to be. I know it's old-fashioned, but I do like to put things on my desktop where I know how to find them easily. But I'm not going to choose the desktop folder, so don't go clicking that button yet. Use this white space here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click in the white space and go New, and then Folder. And I'm going to call it something sensible like my underscore CV. I'm using an underscore there, and no weird characters like hyphens or asterisks, because coding doesn't like that kind of thing. It likes a single term with no spaces in it. So I'm going to not take any chances and call this web folder my underscore CV. Now I'm going to click select folder once, and then I'm going to click it again to select the folder. And that folder is going to open here in Visual Studio Code's Explorer panel, which is the one on the left-hand side there. Now, you'll notice when my mouse cursor isn't over that panel, none of those icons show up. The icons being here. See that? They're there, they're gone. They're there, they're gone. Bear that in mind if you ever lose them. You do need to have your mouse over this Explorer panel, ideally over the name you've just given to your folder, for these to show up. These icons are very important because this is how we're going to create files that live inside the folder we've just created. With this in mind, I'm going to click on the first one here, which is the new file icon, to create a new file. What's this one going to be then? Well, this is going to be a page of HTML, the coding language that runs the internet. How do we make one of those? Well, it's quite simple. I'm just going to name this file as I create it. I'm going to call it index.html. Now, index is by convention the name of your homepage file in a web folder. Don't ask me why, long story, but the important thing for you guys to remember is that you've got to supply the file extension here. You've got to type in, as you create the file, .html, otherwise none of this is going to work. And you can see, even before I've clicked enter to commit to those changes, we've got this little icon here, and that's a left angle bracket and a right angle bracket. That represents HTML. It's a little icon, so you know what sort of file that is. Now, there's nothing in here yet. Don't worry about that. In fact, while we're looking at this tab here, this is the window that's displaying the contents of the file we've just created. Why don't I get rid of the welcome screen now? I'm just going to roll over that so the X shows up. Close down the welcome screen. Don't need it anymore. What we do need, though, is more than just this one HTML file, don't we? We need a style sheet, a .css file. So I'm now going to create one of those by the same method. Roll over new file icon, click it, and I'm going to call this something sensible again, like styles.css. Hit enter. You'll notice that it's supplied a different little icon to go alongside our CSS file here. That is the icon that represents CSS. So we can easily visually distinguish between the two files, what kind of coding language is going to be written into each of these when we do finally come to write some code into them. So there's two files for us. But what I like to do, and experience has taught me it's best to do this sooner rather than later, I like to make an images folder within my web folder. How do we do that? Well, there's another little icon to help us with that task, and that is this one here. That's the create folder icon, new folder. So let's hit that, and without any messing around, I can just make a folder inside my web folder right here in the VS Code interface. So what am I going to call this? Well, I'm just going to call it something like images and hit enter. Now I've got a subfolder. It's a folder that lives inside my web folder. And if I want to see the contents of this folder, I can just click this little drop down arrow there, and it would show if I had any images in there. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because very quickly with the website, you're going to find you have an awful lot of images to build that web page with. And it makes this window look very untidy if you don't make a subfolder. In fact, while we're on that subject, you might end up wanting to play around with style sheets because they're a lot of fun, and you might want more than one. So let's just make another style sheet as a demo. I know we haven't typed anything yet, but just to show you how this works. Oh, there you go. There's a mistake I've made, isn't there? Look, I haven't selected the web folder. I still had images, the subfolder selected. So I need to now stop that. I'm going to click instead on the folder name again. So now I've got my CV selected. When I click new file, let's just drag it in. Hang on. Right, so if I select the entire folder panel here for my CV, now when I click new file, the file doesn't get made inside the images folder, it gets made inside the main web folder though, along with the main pages we're going to be using today. So what am I going to call this other style sheet? Well, I'm just going to call it styles2, but don't forget .css. You've got to remember to type in those file extensions, folks. So that's now going to be a CSS file as well, and I've got styles there and styles2 there. How am I going to put them inside a folder? Well, if I make a folder, another subfolder for my style sheets, I can call it something sensible like style sheets. There we go. And there's another subfolder. So I've got an images subfolder, style sheet subfolder, and I can expand that, click on these two and drag them inside it like this. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. I do want to drag those two style sheets inside the style sheets subfolder. Very useful. I'm doing this because learning how to target a file inside a folder, potentially inside another folder, when you're writing HTML is very important. It's a basic, crucial skill you need to learn. So this is one of the reasons why I'm doing it this way. And also, yeah, like I said, you could easily kind of end up with more than one style sheet if you're playing around learning. You might want that. What else do I need? I need one more thing, only one more thing now, and that's another folder. I'm going to call this one. Oh, I've done that mistake again, haven't I? Right, I'm going to click on the main panel area here. I'll try making a folder again. There we go, that's better. I'm going to call this one scripts. There we go. Now there's my scripts folder. In there, I need to make one final type of file, and that is going to be a JavaScript file. So with this folder selected, you can see it's highlighted in blue there. I'm going to click the make new file, and I'm going to call this one, I don't know, what should I call this? Oh, script one. It's not very imaginative, isn't it? But don't forget, I've got to go .js, because .js is the file extension for a JavaScript file. Don't worry about JavaScript just yet. It's a little bit more advanced, but we do need a file to write JavaScript into, which is what I've just created. And Visual Studio Code has very intelligently, before I've even hit enter to apply that change, it's given me this little yellow JS icon there. Isn't that great? Looks cool. Right, so I'm going to hit enter. Now within my scripts folder, I've got script1 there, .js. I can hide that if I want to by just hitting the drop down arrow again. In style sheets, I've got a couple of style sheets. They're just blank, but there they go. They live installed in my style sheets folder. And I've got the index. Now, all of your HTML files, this is the best way I've found of doing this. They just stay inside the main My CV folder. So you can see where they are. And you can click on, if you do make more than one, you could just click on it here and display it in a preview window. Currently, as you can see, this one's selected. So the window here is showing index.html at the top And I could start typing in there right away, just now. Before I even start typing any HTML though, I'm just going to show you one more trick here, and that's to get a live preview window up. So firstly, we've got the Explorer panel there on the left, then we've got our coding windows here in the middle, and I need one more there, and that is going to show me a preview of my HTML page. So I can check my changes as I make them. It's going to display my HTML file there exactly as it would display in a browser like Chrome or Explorer or Firefox or Brave. How am I going to get that up? Well, I've already downloaded and installed an extension, and by clicking this extensions icon here in the left-hand vertical nav bar, I can search for extensions. So for instance, if I go live preview here, I can search for live preview, the extension, and I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to click this. If you haven't done this already, when you found it, it'll show up in the list here. Check the blue mark there. That proves it's legit from Microsoft. So you need to click that and choose to install it. And once that is installed, let me just get back to File Explorer now by clicking this double page icon in the top left-hand corner there. There you go. We're back to normal now, aren't we? But once you've got that live preview extension installed, you can just right-click on your HTML files and go Show Preview. Boom. And it's conveniently created a new view. It's like a new set of windows here, and you can have several tabs in there, but we're going to try and keep it up one for the time being. And this view here, this whole new section that's been added on the right of our interface here, this is showing index.html as it would show in a browser. Now there's nothing there, is there? It's a blank white sheet. That's because I haven't even started typing any code in here. So were I to choose to cut and paste some code in there, let me just try that now and I'll show you what happens. So I've got my code, which I've cut from just a simple raw text document. And it's got to be raw text. It can't be from a Microsoft Word document or a PDF or a PowerPoint presentation, because those bits of text, even if it looks like it's code, they've actually been surrounded by lots of invisible formatting characters that will mess up your code if you do that. So this is a real simple .txt file I've used, and I've cut the code out of it, and now I'm going to paste it in. There you go. And you can see I've got a few little cheats here already. I've done some coding in advance. So basically, I've got the HTML doc type declaration there. Then the HTML starts and finishes here. You've got an opener and a closer tag for everything in HTML. And all of these tags display the left angle bracket and right angle bracket kind of pattern that you're going to get used to seeing the more you code. So there's the opening tag for the head area of your HTML document. Here's the closing tag for the head area of your document. I've even got a title tag in here in the head. That's where it belongs. And then I've also got, conveniently, a link already in place to a style sheet called styles.css. That's not going to work. Why not? Well, because the path isn't correct. That is an address to a file within your web folder over here on the left. And because the address isn't right, it's not going to work. It's not going to link this HTML page to either of these style sheets. To address these correctly, I'm going to show you a really cool trick here. I'm going to delete that whole phrase there, and I'm going to start typing slash. No, I need to get rid of the disadvantageous quotes there. Right, let's go back to scratch. Equals. Yeah, the quotes changed, so there's a little problem there. That's a bug, isn't it? Okay, let's try this. I'm going to paste in. No, I'll go slash. There you go. That's better. Yeah, so you just hit slash. Now, slash is the kind of universal term encoding for a folder. So when you see paths like this, the address to the file will be separated out by these / characters. And you can see that VS Code is being really helpful here because it's given us these options, these little suggestions for what we might want to type now to save us the bother of doing it. So first, I don't want images, do I? I don't want index. I want style sheets. There you go. There's a folder. called style sheets / I'm going to click that. And then as soon as I do, I'm getting suggestions again, so I don't even have to type the file name. Isn't that great? So I'm going to go with styles.css. There's nothing in there, but at least now we know that the address is correct. So let me put some content in here. I'm going to firstly make a couple of spaces. It's a good idea to format your text, your code in a sensible manner with a few spaces every so often, so you can separate the head from the body, for instance, with just a blank line. Blank lines, spaces in code, generally speaking, don't ever get read as code. They get ignored by the browser, so you can afford to use them to tidy up your display here and make things a bit more legible for yourself. What am I going to say here? Well, I'm going to put some text in, but before I put text in, I need to put in p tag, a paragraph tag, because any text on the page, even if we're doing a rough and ready job like this, it needs to be surrounded by some kind of tag. And in this case, I'm going to use the good old-fashioned paragraph tag because it seems the most appropriate. And I'm going to say hello world, which by convention is what programmers always say when they're learning coding. The first thing anyone learns to code is the phrase hello world. There you go. You see it happening live there in the preview window? Hasn't got any styles, has it? We can write some styles